So, hi everyone. First of all, thank you so much for your time and to join for this special roundtable focus on digital innovation at PSU, leveraging emerging technology to realign businesses. Uh, as we all understand that during the pandemic, most of the organization, be it public sector, private sector, enterprises, small, medium businesses, startup, they all face some level of challenges. And we also observe one thing that organization which had some level of integrated platforms, they were able to mitigate somehow on the go. And the classical example was smart cities command and control centers. Those were set up by municipal body, but they were also being used for delivering emergency services. So what really has happened, a digital transformation agenda of PSU or government organization has increased like never before. And that has also created a large surface for a cyber attack. So today, during this discussion, we are going to focus on the kind of digital innovation and challenges that we have witnessed over the last 2.5 years, and as to how the security has become really important. So some of the things that you are looking from a security perspective, also as to how the cloud technology is becoming an enabler. If you have experimented something, so possibly you can share about that, also about something about the disaster recovery. And also, as I was discussing with sir, the platformization approach, wherein each organization has multiple applications. Now there is a thought process happening within the IT circle that we need to integrate and create a platform kind of approach, something which central government is trying to do with the help of Umang. I'm not sure how successful that has been as to how many people are accessing those services from Umang, but this is one of the effort. And in the end, we will just try to have your general view as to how, as a technology leader in a public sector, what should be the two key immediate priorities. So I'll just request each one of you to introduce yourself, and then I'll request Amol to just give a brief overview. You have something sure. Thereafter, we'll open the discussion. So, sir, starting with you.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Vidya, Sagar, Senior General Manager and SIC. I take care of digital services division, where primarily we are working to facilitate and help industry getting digitized. And for that, we have so many activities. And just to give you a background, that I'm relatively new to SIC. Relatively, I have joined slightly then. But I come from the Catholic background and I have joined from the lateral. So before that, I worked in financial, other people like PPG, Hong and vice versa. So that's why I'm trying to bring some of my best practices, what I've learned in my earlier organization, in SIC for
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Suresh, Nambiar, Chief General Manager, Strategic Information Systems. So, I'm part of the digital transformation team of Indian Oil. We started our digital transformation journey in 2017. We conceptualized and moved it forward 2019 to 21. And we are on the journey. Of course, the pandemic has also hit us a little bit.
Right.
But that has been one of the major reasons for, if I say COVID has been a digital transformation helper and actually
Exactly.
catalyst.
Right. Khanduri, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deepak Khanduri, Chief General Manager, ONGC. I'm part of corporate team, look after IT governance, performance management, and also I'm part of digital transformation team.
Sir.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I am Jagmohan, Chief Operating Officer, Shriton India Limited. Shriton India Limited is one of the nodal agency for the state of UP for executing IT and electronic projects. And we operates under administrative control of Department of IT and Electronics. We are the facilitator and the solution provider for the different departments in state and other in UP and other state. Primarily, we have offerings in cybersecurity as well, Aadhaar services. We are the global AUA, and today I am here representing the department and representing the Shriton India Limited as well. Thank you for inviting.
Sir.
Yeah, thanks CT team for bringing me here. Myself, Amish Vats. I work with the Energy Efficiency Service Limited and in charge of Convergence Energy Service Limited. Both are work in energy efficiency technologies. So I have joined this energy efficiency in 2016. Prior to that, I was working with Power Grid and before that, totally power sector background. So as far as ESL is a relatively new company, it's majorly has started its footprint in 2014-15, and there was a zero IT when I joined, and then finally I got the opportunity to do a lot. And I think as everybody know about ESL and what transformation it has been in energy efficiency. Thank you so much.
Right. Ajay sir.
Good morning. India is a great nation, and DFC is one of the most promising public sector in the trust. And I am heading the IT department in that. My name is Ajay Gupta, and looking after all the IT of the IOCL.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ashwini there. I am working for Recon International Limited. It is an Indian Railways PSU. We are working for Moderator. So there are clients also, and I am looking after IT services in Recon International. We are a turnkey construction company. So we are a turnkey company. So we are taking a lot of initiatives on IT in terms of project management, which is a little bit different from normal stream of IT, primarily for large construction projects. And definitely certain office automation tools, which sir has said that during pandemic, this COVID has really been an enabler to enhance the capacity to know the real benefit. More than e-offices, video conferencing, Zoom, all those integrated platforms. They really connect.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think so. What I will do is, I represent Veeam. My name is Amol Diwanji, and I head the solution engineering practice at Veeam. Basically, solution engineering is, we are a set of technical people. I lead a team of architects to basically help customers like you design their data protection strategy. So to start with, I'll just give you a brief background as to what Veeam is all about. As we are relatively, I would say, young company, all the PSUs I'm sure are at least 50, 60-year-old, set up, post independence or even existed. Some of them existed before pre-independence. So we are like 13-year-old company. We started off in 2009, 2010 time frames. But from the IT standpoint, yes, 10 plus years is pretty long time, long enough time to get mature, because IT, I'm sure, as you all are aware, has changed rapidly, especially from pandemic, of course, but even before that, there have been certain forces which has completely disrupted the way we operate, right, or the way we manage the business expectations. With advent of mobile, with advent of newer channels to consume services, IT has changed rapidly. So at Veeam, what we pride ourselves is, we are the most trusted provider of backup, recovery, and data management solutions that deliver modern data protection. Now, what do we really mean by modern data protection? See, one part of the game is that you protect the data which you have, right? Now, those could be from your legacy systems like SAP, your billing systems, large Oracle databases. The other part, which is increasing from last few years, is data which resides in cloud. Data, for example, which is, like Sir mentioned, you have recently adopted integrated platforms like Google Meet or Teams for example, or O365. What happens to that data? One of the very common misconceptions is that if today I subscribe to a service, say for example, O365 service from Microsoft, the data is taken care by Microsoft, but that is not true. Right? Data is still a responsibility of the customer. And it is true for any cloud service. In our parlance, we call it shared data model. So any cloud vendor will talk about shared data model, saying that some responsibility lies with the cloud service provider, whereas data and security is always customer's responsibility. Right? So that's what we mean by modern data protection. It is not limited to the legacy systems, but it stretches beyond legacy systems to cloud, to certain SaaS services, to newer technologies like Kubernetes or microservices. If you are today doing that from your application perspective. I just briefly touched upon how IT landscape has changed, right? So these are some figures which I just wanted to show you. While these are not PSU figures specifically, but we have seen huge growth in terms of cloud, SaaS, and increase in ransomware. Right? So that would be a topic today which we would discuss, right? So if you see the figures, right, there has been 715% hike in ransomware attacks. To give you some statistics, every day there are at least 10,000 malwares which escape any sort of defense mechanism which you are building. So it is not the question of whether you will be hit by ransomware or not, you will be. Right? That's today more or less grounded fact that we will not possibly be able to avoid a ransomware attack. Now, how do we mitigate the aftermath of a ransomware is what is the question. So how do you really lay down your strategy so that you recover fast with minimal disruption and with minimal loss of revenue? Now, since Veeam specializes in data protection, right? I just also wanted to tell you why what's the reality of legacy backup solution. I told you we are pretty relatively young backup company, and all our strategy as well as our R&D and technology is geared towards not only protecting your legacy systems but also systems which will come in future as well as what you have now, right? And the reality of backup industry today is that 37% of all backup jobs fail. Whenever you want to restore anything, right from a file which you wanted or email which you wanted, 34% times it fails. You are not able to restore what you had protected. And of course, recovery is why you back up. So if you see the statistics, more than 50% of the time your recovery fails. Right? So which is not desirable because you back up because you want to recover, right? You want that fail-safe copy. The other thing which we have, evolved is one is of course backup and recovery, but given the rapid pace in which IT is changing, moving toward cloud, maybe it is not exactly you don't want to possibly move towards AWS or Google, but there are several local cloud service providers, right? Like for example, ESDS or ControlX or NextGen, right? These are local service providers who today are doing a lot of things with government, right? Especially keeping in mind government's compliance needs, their data sovereignty rules and everything, right? So how do we accelerate that movement from your existing systems? How do we transfer that data to those clouds quickly and efficiently and also secure all that, right? So one of our big use case which we do today is movement to cloud. It could be any cloud. And technology speaking, one of the advantages of being with Veeam is what we call as portability. Right? So you back up your data and that data becomes portable if you do it with Veeam, right? So you can just move the data across, anywhere from one cloud to other or to a local service provider, of your choice, and we don't stop you from that, right? So that's portability which Veeam brings in, right? So that's our uniqueness. Of course, ransomware is big, and we'll talk more on that as we move forward with our question and answer session. We are key or we are central to any of the disaster recovery strategy or security strategy because data protection plays a key role in your disaster recovery strategy, especially with the rise of private cloud. I'm sure every one of you today has a private cloud in your data center. How do we create a resilient disaster recovery strategy? with maximum automation and minimal manual intervention. And of course, monitoring and analytics is given because that's where IT leaders like you would want to see how many SLAs were reached. What is the efficiency, more efficiency I can bring in. So all those insights are what which we give by our tools from monitoring and analytics perspective. So in short, we give a single platform to protect your physical workloads, like if you have legacy systems in form of Unix, HP, UX, IBM, AIX, or whatever, to the latest applications which are running on your cloud system, for example, VMware, or if you deploy Nutanix or Microsoft Hyper-V based clouds to SaaS services like O365 or Salesforce to your workloads residing on cloud, right? So it's a single platform which gives you capability to protect data wherever it lies. From industry accolades perspective, we have been a leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for the last 5 years. IDC just named us as a number one, with market share in the entire world, right? So we are number one in the market share in the data protection space, and we have other associated accolades as well, which we can share with you later on. With that, I'd just like to stop and hand it back to Ujaley for.
Thank you for the brief remarks. Sir, if you can introduce yourself, then I'll.
My name is Pratik Lal. I'm RD consultant. We usually organize events of IT sector or any other sector. In government also, or public, private also.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So, sir, I'll begin with you only. What we have observed during the pandemic has that the digital transformation agenda for a public sector organization increases. And based on the challenges that we face over the last 2.5 years, PSU were also able to explore some of the hot spots for innovation. So, how has been your observation?
Yeah, okay. When we talk with reference to the pandemic,
Right.
We were more or less prepared for that. You'll be surprised to know that. Although, because we have a good infrastructure in place, and the first service that we needed to provide was to give access to all within company resources to users who will be accessing network from outside, from internet.
Right.
So VPN based, dual factor, and through hopping through a server, providing protection. So that was very quickly rolled out. And another thing which saved us, because later on, because in 2017 we rolled out our Disha, which is you can say e-office.
Right.
Because in PSU everything moves on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So all our internal processes were already mapped on this platform, and everything was happening because it's a very large organization. So it provided us great speed,
Right.
decision making, and its real worth was proven during this pandemic, when no decision making was we can say slowed down because of this. People could access the network, and Disha could operate, and many other systems,
Right.
which we are already, like we have full-fledged ERP system, email. They may sound very small, but once you have access to this, the communication channels are open, your decision making is happening. And another thing was this large virtual team, video conferencing system. We could immediately set up, if you are talking with the response to pandemic.
Right.
So, and these platforms were scaled up, new licenses. We also had different these online virtual team meeting platforms that were there. So we bought some more so that we can have availability. So this is the area where we
Right.
thought that in pandemic, but in terms of innovation, small innovations in terms of security, in terms of providing VPN access in a way which is more secure,
Right.
dual factor, they were all in-house, they were developed and rolled out.
Right. Nambiar, sir, we also witnessed that, some of the PSU experimented with the next generation technology during the pandemic, especially on a high-end automation. Would you like to share something on that?
Yeah, it is, as far as engineering is concerned, apart from the pandemic, we had started our digitization during a service document in 2017 onwards. So we had already poised for a complete changeover from a digitized database like ERP or CRM. So since 1990, we had our digitization drives. 2000, we had our SAP implemented. 2015 we had CRM started. So then this was, we need to take up this to a higher level because global players were far ahead of us in the oil sector. So we have gone ahead in 2017, we had brainstormed, and then 2019 we formed a strategic guidance team driving something called as a project iDrive, Indian Oil's digital readiness and IT vision enablement project. So unfortunately 2020 pandemic came, but then we found that this was the greatest enabler to digitalization, and as Sir was saying, we also had VPN systems already ready much ahead. 2014 we had increased, upgraded the VPN systems also, and then 2020 when the need came, we actually extended to all our offices, to field offices, 2,000 plus offices. It could be extended in a very split moment.
Right.
Then the ECS system, ECMS system, that is the content management systems for workflow applications. We deployed automatic signing to be done online. We changed our methodology. Those locations were actually, it was not part of the ECMS. They actually moved ahead and accepted, even the departments where contracts sell or the finance, they accepted that e-signing was acceptable. And mailing, through mailing itself, the approvals could be obtained, because we have a lot of, as PSU, we have a lot of approval process. So then part of digitalization, if you see, yes, the VPN, apart from the VPNs and all, we had this Zoom meetings, team meetings. We increased the number of licenses for that, and then we had interface with our officers across different functions. And that was a great enabler, but only thing is, yes, we had no identification of time, whether it was morning or evening or night. It was all in office. So that was, of course, a great. But of course, in that time, there was no stoppage of work or delay, or we could say that there was at times speed of movement was much faster.
Much faster. Right, absolutely.
So, having said that, as part of the digitalization, we have many technologies that we have, emerging technologies that we have implemented. We had the robotic process automation systems, artificial intelligence, and the ML-based analytics tools that have been procured, and we have our in-house teams, the Center of Excellence, we have built. And also anything that we couldn't develop our own in our own in-house teams, we had gone for commercially off-the-shelf tools.
Right.
So the journey is on, and about 79 initiatives which we have initially conceived. It has gone now to 127, but around 80 are already implemented, 20 are on the implementation stage.
Right.
And drastic changes in terms of yield optimizations, benefits on commercial excellence, smart maintenance, preventive maintenance. All these things have actually helped.
Absolutely. Vidya sir, I'll come to you. One more thing that we observed during the pandemic with the MSMEs, small businesses, they struggle a lot. I mean, compared to organization which had the integrated platform, because they don't have the kind of IT budget big corporates would have. Somehow they have started picking up now. So since your organization works with them, how has been your experience, and what kind of digital push you noticed during the pandemic?
Yes, I think it's a very relevant question. And as you know, Government of India have set 5 trillion economy target.
Right.
But within that, there is a 1 trillion target for digital economy. And I think that can only be achieved through MSME.
Absolutely.
So our organization, since we work to facilitate MSME, marketing, finance, tech, training, and all those activities, and being since I take care of digital service facilitation division, which takes care of the MSME digitization policy and support for them as well. So in fact, you will be surprised to know that during the first COVID, that first 3 months, there was complete lockdown across India. All our branches were closed. Physical offices were not operating. As a department, we had increased our number of beneficiaries. First quarter, like same last year when things were normal, and April, May, June, we had increased number of beneficiaries by 256%. This was a record, and that was only possible because we had made our scheme completely online and paperless. No, we had already done that because of, I just said, because of my previous background, I was thinking on that, and we were just on time, and which helped MSMEs do not they did not need to visit any offices. Their paperwork was not required. So that was one reason we made a paperless online tool for them, so that they can join our portal and get all online marketing support services which we have at MSMEmart.com
Right.
for them. And we also provide, one of the key service of that portal is providing keyword-based unlimited tender alerts.
Right.
So which was online, and we added, in fact, during the COVID, we added some of the very, very key feature called award of contract. And as of now, we added that, in the middle of the COVID, in fact, that provides MSME insights on the past awarded tender. And as of now, we have roughly 17 lakhs tender worth 15 lakh crore value. And in the same time, what we did is that you talked about Umang. So
Right.
yeah, Umang is the super app of the Government of India mighty initiative, which holds all the government applications on one platform. So I think I realized the importance of Umang, and we were in touch with Mighty, and we onboarded our MSME Global Mart services on Umang. Umang has 5 crore plus downloads.
Right.
And during the pandemic, Umang was widely used for PF withdrawal and all those facilities, because people were facing, and there was a special provision, you can withdraw provision and all that. So Umang was widely used, and it helped people without going anywhere. So we leveraged that, and we enabled our MSME Mart services on Umang, which is the I'm proud to say that our services was the first in India from the MS service segment to be available on Umang, and it got 5-star rated there and all that. And not only that, but since you touched other things, so platform if you talk about, apart from Umang, there is a platform called Mobile Seva App Store. That is also the Government of India initiative, because the global scenario is Ukraine, Russia, and all that scenario. We can, if any situation arises, so then there is always fear of you getting disconnected from the world and all this. So you always have to have our own system. Google Play Store and all those are, it's outside, and there was some dispute between Google, Paytm. So we also onboarded, we launched our mobile app during that pandemic for this, because MSME Global Mart, which is hosted on the Google Play Store. But then we also moved on to hosting it on the Mobile Seva App Store of Government of India, so that there is an Atmanirbharta, because there is China app and all the issues were happening. So we realized that it is better that
Right.
So these are the few initiatives which took, and to support MSMEs. And of course, as an organization, our e-office got implemented, and many such initiatives, the video conferencing to paid licenses, all those were taken care. So all that.
Right. Jagmohan sir, if you could share also your views around the digital transformation push that you would have witnessed during the pandemic, and some of the things that you would have done in UP.
Yes. Let me start with the pre-COVID or the current scenario and during the COVID. See, in government systems, as most of all know, the filing system was there, physical file movement was there. We need to put up signature on the physical paper, then forward to the reporting officer, then further, and then finally approving, then file would be closed. So during this COVID pandemic, what we faced the biggest challenge, since we are the implementing agency for the UP, whatever is the submitting the proposal, execution, monitoring, everything was happening on the paper. And during lockdown, we observed even making a payment, until unless we need a physical approval on the file, we cannot release the payment to our service provider. And our modus operandi is we get empaneled with the solution provider. Finally, they render the services on the ground and completion, and then through us, they get their payments. There was a scarcity of the funds to the service provider and getting the payments from the department as well. So the e-office mechanism was implemented. During that time, we somehow managed immediately, because crisis was like without any control, no mechanism was there. So we implemented the e-office. Now, a pre and post, the result is yesterday I was sitting in office and there was a minutes of meeting. It is just an example. So earlier what was happening, the physical sign off was there, but the file is moving through e-office. From one office to other office, there is a distance also, completely contactless. The basic problem with the COVID pandemic was there should be contact, it should not be contact.
Right.
And touching was a problem. So now we, in the state of UP, we have implemented the e-office. And since the overall responsibility lies with the Department of IT, today e-office is functional post-pandemic, COVID pandemic. Earlier, it was there, but the need, where there is need was not in the picture.
Right.
Secondly, one more example, what we realized during this pandemic, we are the global AUA for the UIDI and the state nodal agency for implementing the Aadhaar authentication services. So, Honorable CM declared that there should be immediate relief to the laborers from the labor department. But suddenly that how we would transfer the funds.
Right.
Somehow it came that it should be through authenticated. Now, as we went to the authentication, there was physical biometric is required. Then again, one question arises, without biometric, how can we do the authentication? Then we innovated a solution and proposes to the UIDA New Delhi that contactless authentication. And there was a mobile app just moving like face moving liveness detection. That we did the POC with the UIDA New Delhi, and it is now in the implementation phase. Right. As far as the innovation, we did that because of there was a need, because nobody wasn't putting the biometric information.
Right.
So after COVID, today the again the filing process is through e-office. Physical meetings, earlier somebody is traveling from Delhi, somebody is traveling from one department, district headquarter to state headquarter. Now the maximum meetings is happening through this virtualization.
Right.
Capturing, storing, like earlier now, in initial days the storage was not there, videography was not there. Nowadays, videography is just a mandatory in all meetings. Somebody is sitting Bangalore and we are doing the virtual, physical is also there.
Right.
So this is the complete diversification in the process.
Right.
Earlier it was not there. Everybody was required physically to travel to Lucknow and appear one-to-one. So this is the basic difference.
Right.
Today we are doing this. Again, from the Department of IT, we are doing the e-district services to statewide. Earlier it was also working. But even citizens understand that what is the use is of this center, CSC
Right.
center. Online portal is there. I personally applied for the domicile certificate. Prior to this pandemic, I applied for some other certificate. It could not get through. But today I applied because the monitoring and the so-called the review mechanism got robust nowadays. Earlier it was there, but on the physical level. Now the dashboard is there. We can get the progress. We can get the travel tickets. And after pandemic, we realized that the authentication, Aadhaar authentication is the most important for the nation and state.
Right.
Now, we recently implemented Aadhaar enabled biometric attendance system to UP SDM, Uttar Pradesh Skill Development Mission. And the results are really amazing for getting the monitoring benefits for the government.
Right.
So, and every department is doing the innovations and exploring to create the excellence within themselves.
Absolutely.
Earlier, we were proposing the solutions like the ERP, like the maintaining the websites, like the security. The awareness was missing.
Absolutely.
No department was so serious. In even most of the departments, there was no IT nodal officers.
Right.
Now every department is interacting, asking with the private solution providers, with nodal agencies, that whether our website is certified, security audit is there or not. Prior it was not there. So from my side, I would say that there is really lot of diversification in the process, and the excellence is really get improved.
Right.
And the ownership towards the department and the solution provider and with the implementing agency is improved drastically. And the review mechanism, because of this pandemic, everybody can check the progress
Right.
on the palm today.
Absolutely.
But earlier it was with the file. This is the basic difference.
Right.
What is from my side. And again, that let me tell about Sweetone also. We are the solution provider. I would say that most of all my customers.
Right.
We work through our disruptive solution provider like our colleague. So we get empaneled with the disruptive technology solution providers, propose it to the department. And currently we are working with different departments with the disruptive technologies.
Right.
And I am available for any query from
Wonderful.
my side.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with the fact that during the pandemic, a lot of innovation happened in terms of, re-engineering of working culture. And I still remember, people were getting approval on WhatsApp, and then the next day the file will run as it is. But you have the de facto approval for doing the things. So all those. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And good part is that it has become a new normal. Everybody is accepting. The awareness level is so high. So I'll come to you on, especially on the ESSL part. I know power is very one important component among all these things. Also, the fact that it's not only about power, but it's also a smart metering, a smart work that we have been. If you could share something based on ESSL experience.
So I will just divide these two.
Sorry.
So I will divide the overall things. IT, which is like we have just leveraged to the user, and for the business function, where are the customers and our stakeholders were disrupted due to that. So once the pandemic started, one fine day my MD called like how we are ready for the lockdown. However, as we see like from the government side, it may not happen. But because we are a relatively newer company, we have implemented it from 16 most of the IT needs. So we are totally on cloud. Our SAP system, that is like HANA cloud-based. We are having e-office. We are having all cloud-based Veeam. So as far as the data which is required for any user, we are very ready, right? We are having a VPN services.
Right.
So as far as ESL is concerned, more or less we like work like a private culture. If you will see.
Right.
That PSU type of restrictions and that compliances kind of things are not too much enforced, right?
Right.
So we were totally ready for that. There are certain things like before around since 2015 we are totally depend on all these PCs and all. Cisco platform was already implemented, so we are like totally ready for that. And as far as user is concerned, we don't feel any challenges in that. But if you will talk about at my regional office, where my maintenance has to happen for all these street lights, we have implemented 1.25 crores of LED street lights. So what happens to the maintenance of that?
Right.
Approximately 30 to 40% of the street lights are IoT enabled, right? There is a centralized and control monitoring system that was implemented. So this is an IoT device which push the data to the servers, and then finally we are having a common platform where we used to see like how many street lights are on, how many street lights are off, where is the issue with the same. That comes with the signal loss, right? So we have implemented. Generally, it was not used by the technical team. Right? But the problem with the IT is like we got the lot many input and then we want this solution with this solution. Once you will give it to them, so there are the challenges. First complete this, then we will implement it. So that was the right time for an organization, for IT team to leverage all these solutions. My find these previous applications which not being used are totally come into operations. So that was the one of the thing, all the monitoring and maintenance, because it is two-way communication, we were able to manage. But there are certain issues related 20 to 25% where user has to, because under critical area, so that we manage through that.
Yeah, right.
Second is the smart meter, right? There were lot many hue and cry in the public, like fast smart metering and all. But during that time, most of the discoms where the smart meter was implemented, that billing efficiency was tremendous, right? If we will see about Delhi, they developed some WhatsApp kind of thing. But if we will see like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Haryana, there are three places where the smart meter was implemented. 95% billing efficiency was there.
Right.
And even operational maintenance through remote, we were able to manage to a certain extent. After that, now it has been like the phase is totally changed. Lot many applications,
Right.
and lot many modules has been added to that. We were having approximately 50 different applications for different. We are approximately in 15-20 different domains, whether it is pumping, whether it is these motor energy efficiency, industrial efficiencies. So for every domain we have a 2 to 3 applications, right?
Right.
So, but everything developed within a 7 days, 10 days, because that we got the requirement. We have to like launch. PM is inaugurating. PM is inaugurating. You don't have time to make it robust.
Right.
So finally, what we did, as we were talking about the platform. So we just like during that COVID time, we build our own platform, totally on open source. All these applications are integrated in a single platform. All master data are common. Each we do, if we require new requirement, we just plug in that piece. My application is ready. When if it was that, now I require the new requirement. It take very little time to integrate that, because my platform is totally ready. I need to just get it developed, and then we are also leveraging lot many cloud data platforms.
Absolutely.
For that innovation and then enhancement of existing.
Right. Ajay sir, if you can also talk about your experience, especially in relation to the dedicated freight corridor, and as to how the mammoth challenge and how you were able to mitigate, and as to how technology came as a boon in between.
Thanks a lot for giving the opportunity. Let's just talk a brief about the dedicated freight. We are constructing a separate dedicated freight line from Calcutta to Delhi and Delhi to Mumbai. It's around 3,000 kilometers. It's a World Bank and JATRA company. It's a company of 1 lakh crore. It's one of the biggest infrastructure companies in India. It will transform. Even our honorable Prime Minister, Finance Minister, Railway Ministers, they are banking on us. We'll be hauling long trains, 1.5 kilometers. In the Western Corridor, we'll be having double stacking trains. On the Indian Railways, we are running the goods train at an average speed of 23.7 km per hour. Now, Indian Railways are in the dedicated freight corridor, average speed is minimum 70 km per hour.
Right.
It's a 70 km. My maximum speed is 100 km per hour. Sometimes we have to parallel drive to the Indian Railways with dedicated freight corridor. Sometimes we are crossing Radha. The availability, faster, timely delivery of material will certainly improve our logistics or reduce the logistic process. That's the main criteria. We have introduced one more thing, truck on train. Anybody has heard about that? That's the thing. We are running the trucks on our train. From Palanpur to Rewari, the truck used to take around 22 hours. But we are carrying the truck in 10 hours. It's environment friendly, it's less costly, it's reduce the congestion on the road, dependency on the fossil fuel.
Right.
Yes.
It's a game.
Yeah.
Anand is saying every day we are sending 1,700 tankers to Delhi or Delhi. Just see what kind of potential we have. Kandla port, suppose one exporter of the Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, just go to the Rewari or the Dadri station, they can book the consignment and quickly deliver.
Right.
After that, I'll say we have a lot of responsibility.
it's a very lean organization. Only 17 people. In comparison to the Indian MBS where we have 13 lakhs, 14 lakhs people. My backbone is SAP. My entire operations are working on SAP. It's a seamless operation. It's a ERP system. We are working on HR, finance, project system, benefits management, procurement for you, procurement portal is that EIDBS of the gem. As everybody told, we have e-office. It's nothing very good. As Amol was saying, Amol, you are saying controllers. Yes, we are controllers. Moving. My entire SAP database is cloud controllers. Yes, before pandemic, we have shifted from our DB2 to so that particular activities we have performed before COVID time and during a pandemic, we have it has increased. It's a seamless process.
Right.
It's a seamless process. Maybe video conferencing, maybe e-office filing, maybe dashboard, maybe SAP. People are working from home and only passing the page. We are dealing with the very big organizations, maybe LNT, maybe Tata, and we can't stop because it's an infrastructure. We have to roll the money.
Right.
So that we are making the payment in 2 days time. Within 2 days, after submission of the payment, we are making the payment. And that's possible with SAP with proper procedure and with proper.
Right.
Dashboard guides us where we are lacking. Suppose there is a dashboard, it is saying is for the earthwork, we require. Currently, you are using 700 trucks per day, but you have to increase the number of trucks so that you can meet the targets. The system is better. When you come to basic parameters, that what is my finding output? My contract is of 10,000 crore, I have still done 2,000 crore, is 80% of the spending.
Right.
That's the physical thing because if somebody has done the work, he has taken the payment. And if payment has not been taken, that means 80% of has not been done. These are the things which we are doing. We have done some kind of innovative thing also in the SAP, as we know, it's a more or less, it's a black box kind of thing.
Right.
What we have done is that we have taken the entire data on my corporate platform. And we have analytics on that. How many people have taken leave, not taken leave, what kind of project is there, how many invoices are delayed at what level. We are sending through WhatsApp the base rate, we are sending the bills. As soon as the bill will be passed, the copy will go to the vendor. So these are the innovations which are done other than the
Right.
Right.
Right. Ashwani sir, even if you can also add, especially from your own point of view, as to how has been your experience during the pandemic and some of the initiative from a digital perspective that you would have taken. Right.
Recall is a long history and briefly introduce Recall International is an organization as well as told that they are doing a very large project and it is a very large organization. But for Indian Railways primarily and for all PSUs, whatever the railway work is done for infrastructure development, we are always part. Like LNT, Tata Power, all are there, we are also there for years. And likewise, we have got certain very prestigious projects. We are doing a railway line in Jammu Kashmir. It is called USBR.
Right.
So we have enabled it from Baniar till Bharan. In 2014, we completed it. Petra is also linked. Now we are linking it from Baniar to Jammu. And that's a very challenging work. Because the terrain is there. So why I am speaking about this project? Because we are a project based.
Right.
Civil construction, large construction projects. Be it highways, be it bridges, be it railroads, ROBs, we are there. Then we are doing another very prestigious project where we are linking from in Northeast on the seven systems. We are doing Silver projects. We are doing a highway from Burma till our borders. We have recently our Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated that Realign line to Nepal. We have just completed. Then we are doing very large, very long highways like Bikaner-Sulawesi highway. We have done it in 8-lane highways. We are doing the Bombay-Kim-Vadodara highway and Dilip-Pipalgaon highway. They are also doing with us. So we are doing airport hangars, many other projects, entirely of civil engineering. Now, our challenges, which a typical office has, we do have the same challenges which other offices have. We did move to e-office, and e-office did take up very nicely when the pandemic was there. It gave a boost to entire organization. We went for Google Meet and various other solutions which are more cost effective. We are a project organization, we are cost sensitive also. We have to earn our bread. That's the main process. So every project which we do contracting, subcontracting. So there is a part of budget in it, project management and the primary challenge with us is we are not a fixed company. So we have one corporate office. But in total on all the projects which are better, we keep moving. Within 3 years, 4 years, the project gets completed, teams get shifted. So infrastructure also gets shifted. In terms of office, our networks, our softwares. And we do handle certain very specific software which are of engineering nature or project management. So one challenge which I see for USBL project during pandemic, it was very difficult because it is a very prestigious project and it has to be completed by 2022, December 2022. So there were very strict timelines. So we had to monitor it, and every month, practically there is a review meeting which is and PMO mail set, officials from PMO chair there. So they monitor that project. So to get those reports, actually process is projected that what is the actual physical progress vis-a-vis the financial progress. So that physical progress has to happen, and those were captured in Primavera or TILOS, which is a software, which is a time location based software which monitors the linear projects which are in linear nature,
Right.
like railroads, where we can monitor the project progress in a linear fashion. Those softwares, few of the software are very good engineering softwares, but they do not have, you can say, internet capability. They are used by civil engineers, project managers. They are sitting in their offices or at the project location. So fetching the data, getting the data in the corporate, we develop with portals where we create a socialization and pull out their basic data from those softwares, from Primavera, from TILOS, integrated data, and then we pulled out and we generated a portal. We can look at that and that is monitored by PMO. So there it is based on totally open source technology.
Right.
So we are using Vue servers, we are using Classmate servers, and we are operating a lot of shapefiles for our alignment design, for other things. We are capturing drone videos. So drone has also come up. Drone videos for focus monitoring has also come up very nicely for us. In comparing the drone videos, that's also a challenge. What elevation, what level you are capture that information and how to derive analytics.
Right.
So another software which we use was Grafana and other things. Definitely there were challenges how to roll out. But yes, sometimes it is said that when you fly low,
Right.
you don't get it. But you have to be fast.
Absolutely.
There are challenges of security and there are challenges of basic security we get care of. Data volumes are not very huge in project management because and they are not you don't have to do it in a way. There are timelines that at certain period of month or certain period of quarterly reports we do have to be there. But it does not mean that we have to be online all the time.
Right.
So that was not a challenge. And even if we go down, what is our resilience stack for our servers, for our software? So we did mitigate those risks we did manage that. That is intelligent. Yes,
Right.
I don't think so. And I was talking to Wills back in this meeting. Like, there are challenges of security. And where do we tap? Whom do we tap for that security? That always becomes a challenge.
Mhm.
We did more of SAP. SAP is previously we were having ECC, we were running SAP ECC. Now we are more of all the modules. And we went for retail Indian cloud services. We can say it is right. We asked them to buy servers required more of infrastructure which we required. They became our cloud service provider. We could have done it ourselves also because previously we could it ourselves from our native data center in C4 center. Why did we do it? Because there are certain guidelines and certain threats
Right.
which are very expensive to manage. But when they are managed collectively through such software, such as agencies like you become cost.
Right.
Otherwise, if I deploy my mailing solution and I deploy Iron Code, I deploy all those things, it becomes very, very expensive. And I cannot.
Mhm.
So it was always better that I go on a facility which is Veeam panel, which has got all the certifications, which gives me comfort.
Right.
I don't say that I can go and validate them, but they give me a comfort
Right.
that I am buying a service which is compliant.
Absolutely.
So they have their GRCs in place. And so that's it. So for that part, for SAP like application and for our e-office application, we have e-office since it is a government rolled out application NIC. I have a because I'm from the NIC background itself. I worked on that software. So that has got a dual type of security. One, where you are hosting,
Right.
be it your NIC or NIC data centers or your rented data centers. Another, NIC does an audit.
Right.
So definitely those things
Mhm.
come to your rescue in terms of comfort.
Right. Right.
Another thing which we did was, and most of us have spoken on that, is that we changed certain rules. Because when COVID happened, a lot of things were to be approved on. So we are doing a lot of contracting and subcontracting, and money is involved. A lot of contracts, they all have got legal rights. So they require signatures. Payments require signatures. How to reduce those fake bills, how to reduce those duplicate bills. And do we approve those bills or those TCs, tender committee meetings, on these signatures? So somebody has to accept it. Management has to accept it.
Right.
So there were certain changes in our SOPs. Likewise, there were changes on GEM procurement. And how do we do a procurement on GEM? There was a big discussion in there. So we did introduce certain paras in our SOPs that for certain level of purchases, we go on with that sort of approval because they were not there prior. Because we are such an old company and come from a fraternity of Indian Railways, most of 90% of our rules are covered by our Indian organization. So we drive everything from there. And Indian Railways, it is such a huge organization, largest empire in the world. It is not surviving just because it is money. It is surviving because it has certain rules, it has certain values. So all organizations, all the PSUs, all organizations like Indian Railways, they work with certain
Right.
certain policies, certain rules. So when we did this online transactions, online transaction of filing systems, approval systems, certain rules were changed by government. So that was there.
Right.
That was there. And not to get confused with the legal.
Right.
So that thing we did. Rest, everything which everybody does,
Right.
does within the day, sitting at home,
Right.
These are my
Right. Amol, especially if you could add, because all of our speaker have spoken as to how they look at the pandemic, the challenges they face, and the work that they are doing, and as to how technology came quite handy, and some of the innovation that they made. But sir also mentioned the security part, which has become really important, because once you go for digital transformation, you are also increasing the surface for cyber attack. So within public sector organization, you need to have a broader architectural approach in order to mitigate any cyber security challenges, because in PSU, the challenges could be, I mean, state sponsor attack, those could be there. So, if you could share based on your experience, given the fact that you get a lot of input from multiple organization, if you could give your view.
Sure. I think so. Security is on top of everyone's mind, and as you rightly put it, your surface areas will increase, and there is no longer a perimeter. I mean, earlier the assumption was, part of government of India, your PSU, all your data and your data will be controlled within your IT infrastructure. But I think so. Everyone is told how they have deployed or have adopted cloud, right? And one thing, which is very clear, there is no longer any perimeter. Right? And your data is actually lying across. From my personal experience, I tell you, we speak about actually this PSU culture. Personally, I have noticed that there is nothing like that anymore. When the pandemic hit, I was actually not part of the part of the national organization. I got a call from the CTO of the largest PSU bank, and his challenge was to roll out remote working over the weekend, and we actually made it happen over the weekend. It happened literally in days, 48 hours. Almost 500 of the staff were enabled to work, because you can't stop banking, you can't stop services, right? So there was so much innovation in those months, and the PSC culture which I spoke about just vanished. I mean, there is nothing called as yahan se wahan and all that. It just seamlessly worked. Now there are a couple of things which happened, right, in these 2 years, especially from a working perspective. Now, one is that you have multiple platforms. You have platforms which are inside your organization, like data centers. You have something lying on controllers, for example, or on Google or on AWS, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is that even from the access side, because people, your employees who are accessing it are also accessing it not within the confines of office anymore. Right? They are also stepping out. They are working from home, or they are working from wherever they went. Few of the people went back to their hometowns. Right? So that also had to be enabled. Now that brings in a lot of challenges from the security aspect, because now you suddenly are not dealing with a controlled environment, but actually an environment which is which has exploded beyond it. Right? So how do you protect? How do you make sure that you give access securely to your employees, as well as you secure all the data? While there are a lot of technologies from the access perspective, so to make sure that you give access to only to valid actors and not to any other actors in your network. The problem, like I explained earlier, is that you still have smarter attackers who would overcome whatever you have built in as part of your security architecture, right? And I think so you must have heard about zero trust architecture and don't trust anyone and all that, right? So the system keeps on validating, even if you are an employee, in a timely fashion, keep on validating whether it is you or not. But still, those attackers will create, right? So what do you do in that case? The only option is now to rely on your protected data. So once an attacker creeps in, the first thing you do is start encrypting all your production patterns. That's the first thing which will happen. Now, in order to recover from it, either you have an option to take, which is actually not an option really. The other is you recover that data from someplace else and make sure that your business is up. Now, since the person has got access to your production platforms, what the attacker also does is that he goes and encrypts even your backup copies. So increasingly, what I'm seeing is that IT leaders or the data center specialists are actually trying to have a workaround from that perspective also. So what they typically do is they maintain something called as worm technology, which are write once and read many times. So your backups in IT parallels are immutable. Right? So you create a backup copy which is immutable, which is free from any sort of malware. Right? Second thing, what people do is that they copy or make copies of this data across different data centers. So you could keep one copy in your primary data center, one copy in your disaster recovery data center, and one copy possibly in a cloud of your choice, maybe controllers or whichever kind of cloud provider you have. So these are a couple of things which you can do from a security perspective. The other aspect which we enable is something what we call as the reuse of data. Right? So you have this dormant data sitting as form of protected data, right? And few of the malwares are actually latent malwares. So they will insert a malware, and that will not be triggered or it will do nothing for some time. It will just sit for maybe 2-3 months, and based on a trigger, it will start encrypting. Right? So for such latent malwares, what we allow or what we've seen organizations doing is they utilize the backup to actually scan for this latent malwares and detect if there are any sort of latent malwares existing. You can also use this data for your analytics, for example. Right? So security has changed, and there are a lot of things which have changed from the access perspective, but your backup is still your last line of defense, and you need to make sure that you not only create a immutable copy on-prem, but also create multiple copies so that you stay protected and you are able to recover back much more quickly.
Right, absolutely. So, Khanduri sir, I'll come to you again. Amol raised very important thing, especially around the fact that organizations are prone to cyber attacks.
Yes.
And what we can do, personally, we can have the disaster recovery in place so that the recovery could happen fast. So your views on that. And second, what we are witnessing that within organization IT environment, there are multiple applications, and those are hosted here and there in your own data center, maybe on private cloud or public sector cloud, and there are a lot of applications. So there is effort also being made to integrate those different application into a single integrated platform to have a console view of each one of them. So from a security perspective and ease of doing perspective, how do you balance as an IT head? Right.
Okay. In our scenario, as I was telling to someone, is very complex and heterogeneous.
Right.
When we talk of IT, there are some generic IT applications. We have ERP, we are migrating to HANA, we have email, we have number of IT applications, and then we have GNG,
Right.
which uses HPCC kind of thing and the different RCCs. So one thing is certain that this heterogeneity will remain.
Right.
We have given a lot of thought that to make it consolidated. But as far as security concerns are concerned, like earlier we started with perimeter security, like Mr. Amol was saying, our focus was there. And then soon we realized that this is not sufficient. And now we have a security operations center also, operational with Singh, so all latest tool. But then we are beginning to realize that, especially with new age threats that are emerging, that this again is not going to be sufficient, especially like ransomware and so on and so forth. We feel that we are vulnerable to it, and monitoring from anyone, like for example, endpoint monitoring. We do have endpoint monitoring tool deployed from very long time. But what about the east-west traffic?
Right.
We do not have that, where the zero trust approach comes into play.
Right.
So we are thinking of having this zero trust environment
Right.
security in place, and then like Mr. Amol said, data security.
Right.
And that is also being looked at. But these are something which we are looking into. But as far as your questions are concerned, our another major emerging security challenge is OT, which I think my colleague from IOCL will understand, because lot of OT data, which is operational technology, DCS, PLC,
Right.
where the processes are running. Earlier, they were air gapped from the enterprise network. They were running on their own. But now with the analytics coming, the data from these OT systems has to be brought to IT systems in the corporate network.
Right.
And that is posing a huge challenge. And we being part of CIA, that is critical information infrastructure. So we have to follow the guidelines of NCIA, PCC also. So we are thinking of securing our OT data, maybe use of data diodes or single, directional data flow, such these technologies. So this is, but as far as consolidating everything in one place, that is not possible.
No.
Heterogeneity will remain,
Right.
but we may consolidate. Like for example, we had 9 internet gateways. Now because of security, we have consolidated to 5.
Right.
Maybe going along, we'll consolidate further. So same goes for data centers. So that thought even came from our board,
Right.
that you have multiple data centers. Why don't you integrate or bring them together? Thought process is on.
Right.
We are working on it, but it is still somewhat in future.
Right. Nambiar sir, what Khanduri sir is saying is absolutely right, especially on the fact that the IT environment is very heterogeneous. You have an application, then you have a networking, and you are consuming from different organization. You might have your own internal system, might be consuming from AWS, Google, IBM, and all. So one is on the security part, how critical that has been. As such, spoke about the OT one, and especially the analytics coming into wherein you have to merge two data points to get something out of that. So if you could share something on the security part, also the fact that most of traditional organization like yours, you have invested a lot in legacy IT system. And trust me, it's not a single day job to migrate all of them to the cloud. So there are some experiment happening with the cloud, mostly private cloud within own data center. So how do you look this cloud trajectory and the security?
As I was saying, we have different divisions, like a refinery division, a marketing division, a pipelines division, connecting of the different across the country. So the OT data has never been tapped because, as he said, it's a real air gap that was existing. Now with analytics and AI/ML coming in, there's a lot of scope for improvement in those areas. So we have embarked upon this OT. One of the initiatives that we have observed is that to integrate OT with IT.
Right.
So then we have this challenge of how do we transfer the data? What are the firewalls and security issues that has to be managed? And we also found that some OT systems, which have been provided by OEMs, are pretty old. Even Windows 98, Windows 95 systems are still running because they were working in silos. Nobody was supposed to touch it. The moment you touch it, probably your entire production systems may affect. So these kind of challenges are there. When we have to integrate, you need to get your antivirus updates and all those things. All the paraphernalia of security has to be put in place. So this is one challenge which we are facing. So we are as part of analytics, we are actually bringing all the data into a data management platform with all the security appliances that has to be placed in. We have some data. Now the questions are coming. OEMs are saying that we will provide you a SaaS-based system on the cloud where we will do predictive maintenance. So as he was talking about the CIA and CNBC governance, where we are not supposed to even send data outside. So how do we do that? It can be a one-way using. We have tried out with one use case with a data diode into having one-way communication. But then after that, the CIA came and then we had to have a totally different architecture. We have to impress upon the vendors to actually have a on-premise kind of solution. So now vendors have agreed to actually give analytics on-premise. So, whereas at the same time, your concerns about cloud migrations. The migration wherever non-sensitive data is there. Yes, we are ready to go to cloud. We are actually approaching cloud, and we have many implementations on cloud. But where sensitivity of data is necessary, and there is also compliance guidelines. Then we have to adhere to our own on-premise solutions. And we have tried out, our CRM is on virtual cloud, it's a private cloud. So, but then the network is different.
Right.
Cloud architecture on a virtual network. So this I think it's a question to you also. How in case of if I adopt a cloud architecture tomorrow, and if there is a guideline, and these are all companies which are providing from other than Indian companies who are providing, not governed by Indian government laws. If there is some sanctions or something like that, and they put some barrier onto that, how do I retrieve my data? How can I ensure that my business as usual works, my process system works? I'm ready to move to cloud tomorrow, but I should get the assurance that yes, if there is a sanction, still my conditions, my process will not be happening. We have O365, we are trying now to O365, but even we can have backups
Right.
on that. But then process systems, we cannot take that freedom to actually move to cloud.
Right.
At least as of now, until probably Indian government has their own cloud systems and
Right.
the national cloud.
So Meghraj and IC tried, but I don't know how big they are.
There is a, I don't know, but there was a concept, it was implemented also during CW.
Right.
There was something called protected service.
Okay.
In the entire world, exactly. There is a consortium in a global platform where these protected servers, they have, I don't know many of them, they cannot be done.
Right.
And they are protected by all the vendors. As far as what can be the mechanism that if there are certain sanctions,
Right.
how do the data be affected? How does it? How can we manage it?
Amol, would you like to add anything on that?
If we have that protected, so if we can have those protected, like CW servers are protected, Olympic servers are protected, they come in that category of protected servers. They are labeled. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody does anything. So likewise, can there be certain data centers which can be termed as protected data centers, like NEGV?
Right.
Now, apart from this, Government of India has come up with various schemes. Because of this, previously in 98, there was a clause 62, 63, where it said clearly that any data which any company wants to have, like ONGC or Google, they need to have their data centers on PSU. Because of those regulations,
Data localization.
because of those regulations, the Google is operating from India, Microsoft is operating from India, even the video conferencing servers for life sciences, they are operating from China. Because of those, that thing has to come from the government.
Right.
The government has to be very, very, you can say, tough on those guidelines.
Right.
There is something like that. Every house cannot be protected by military.
Right.
Yes, your borders will. Borders have to.
Absolutely.
They have to be.
Right.
But one challenge I will say is about the EULA, end user license agreement. So when we sign these license agreements, these are all favored to the government of those particular where it is registered.
Yes.
So
And this challenge always remains that even Google or AWS, they have data center elsewhere also.
exactly.
What is protecting them, or how are we going to challenge whether they do not take the data elsewhere? And I had a talk with a Gartner analyst who was a Chinese national. I posed this question to him. He said simply, go for a data center or a cloud service provider who is native to India.
Right.
Tata or something. He was taking some names.
Right. Right.
That was what he said.
Would you like to add, Amol?
Just wanted to add on Sure's question, right? Today, we provide you that ability to trade. Yes, I know. Provide simply providing portability. Of course, one use case is accelerate your adoption, moving your systems from on-prem to cloud. But the other big capability which we give is to move within clouds and also also back to your data center, right? So, I don't stop you that moment, and it is so seamless that we have seen people who move from, say, for example, AWS to Google, from Google to AWS, or vice versa, for one of many reasons. It could be cost, like you said, it could be some sort of compliance. We want a certain feature which makes that workload run better. And I've also seen people coming back to on-prem because the cost escalations happen, and whatever you projected may not always meet your SLA. Right? So there are customers who are also moving back, right? And like you rightly said, events like war or anything, you may be forced to move back because the provider could be from that specific country who's the aggressor. Right? So
at that time, do you have the infrastructure to move back?
Yes, so that's what I was coming to. That's a big challenge. That how do you set up that resilience? Moving data is east of the works, but how do you make it operational? This is another thing, right? Because when you move, you actually also kind of give up on the infrastructure which is there on premise, right? So how do you make it operational? There needs to be a thought process behind it. There are no easy answers, honestly. But yes, the data movement is not very
Just
Right.
add to
like us.
like there are a couple of PSUs like Power Grid is coming in a big way in the cloud. I think and retail is doing, but actually come to that level, giving all that innovative solutions and then all advanced features, they are coming up. But absolutely, Power Grid is coming very soon with that kind of setup. I think in future definitely we will definitely having such solutions, so that everybody is not invent the wheel again and again as we all are doing, at least in government sector.
I have a perspective of that data is if you used it and then you become resilient. That is important. I think yes, that is most important. Otherwise, you lose your line of business or you lose whatever in transactions. What if the data is stored?
Right.
That is the KNB phase step. He is surveillance. When you do tendering, when we load our tenders on portals like CPT, there is, prior to that, we have to see the tender is something around 1,000 crores, 2,000 crores, like that, tender. So for that, we do need to cover and to estimate those costs. We do a lot of analysis, we do a lot of surveys, and they cost us a lot. They cost us a lot. It's huge. They cost 100 crores, 200 crores. You have done drone surveys, you have line arrangement, all those things. And when you do topography science, they cost a lot. When there is a tender of ESC and you bid for it, how will I protect my tender or those costs or those things from, say, data power, from, say, other people who are not getting the ready-made solution, ready-made survey?
Right.
From my tender, you take it on that tender. If there is another tender, 1,000 crores, 100 crores, 10%. That margin will go up.
Right.
Another perspective of security, how do you secure your data? Which are not all your regular, but also business concern.
Right. Right.
And they are very, very important for the event.
Right.
Summit in the last hour.
No, I'm up for a month.
After a month.
You give 21 days. Give 21 days.
That data is residing in some computer. It is stored from there.
It is not used. It is not used properly. It is not stored and used by them. Just stored.
Right.
They don't invest. They never invested into it.
Right. So we have completely exhausted our time. Last word to you, sir. Especially small and medium businesses, they also face a lot of security challenge, but they won't have the kind of budget that ONGC and IOCL will have. So how do you, if you could bring some element from sir?
So that is very, very important point. And in fact, we would like to share with you that this initiative we recently took not even a year, and we got a policy approved at the European level, and we have come up with the ICT digital services offerings for MSME.
Right.
Because they can't afford and they can normally get exploited in the market, and there is no transparent pricing, and they don't know So we have come up with the ICT digital services policy for MSME, where we are impaneling some key service providers, and the primary category as of now is say ERP, accounting, GST compliances, and some cloud security solution, marketing solution. These are the categories we have identified in the first place. In fact, there is a policy called Digital MSMEs policy at the Ministry of MSME also. So we took some input from there, and then we have come up, and we have already done some leading global and Indian service providers 5 as of now, and offering their services to MSMEs. And the best part of it is being offered at a very spacious price because expected volumes and all that. So much lower prices than the market rate, those services. So this is we are trying to cater to those MSMEs needs to bring them, in the automation and
True platform.
Yes, sir. So it's a very at an initial nascent stage, but we are trying to expand it, and in fact we have given the delegation power to our zonal heads to impanel maybe some good regional.
Right.
So as of now we have impaneled Zoho, which is the leading Indian product software company, and then we have impaneled DNB done with that suite, which is the largest commercial database in the world for providing marketing solution, trading solution, and all.
Right.
We have impaneled Books, which is already listed as the STM for software. We have also listed Happy for providing these cloud security, dedicated internet, and these kind of things. So
Right.
This is the initiative.
Right. So it's the lunchtime. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist and sharing your insight, not only on the challenges that we witnessed during the pandemic and the way we adopted technology, and also very focused and interesting discussion on security and some of the new thing I learned from you. So, I mean, that's also a good thing for me. I can go back, research and write, or maybe I can connect with you. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you. Thank you.